Chosen one, stop. Stop whatever you are doing right now. Do not click away. Do not scroll past. Because the moment you arrived here was not an accident of the algorithm. It was an appointment in the Spirit. You have been standing at a closed door for a very, very long time. You have knocked until your hands are weary. You have stared at the lock, wondering if the master turned the key, and walked away into the dark. You have asked yourself in the quiet hours of the night, why is this door still shut? Have I been forgotten? Is this wilderness my permanent home? Have I made a mistake that locked me out of my destiny? If you have carried these questions, if you have felt the heavy dust of the threshold settling on your spirit, then you need to hear what is about to be said, because God is not telling you to walk away. He is not telling you to prepare for another decade of waiting. He is issuing a direct divine order. He is saying, open it now. Your miracle has arrived, and it is standing on the other side of the gate. The great British writer C.S. Lewis, in his profound sermon, The Weight of Glory, captured this exact human tension. He wrote, "The door on which we have been knocking all our lives will open at last." Think about that. All our lives we knock. We knock with our prayers. We knock with our tears. We knock with our silent hopes. We knock at the door of purpose, of relationships, of healing, of breakthroughs. And so often, the door feels made of iron. It feels double-bolted. It feels as though our knocks only echo in empty hallways. But Lewis did not say the door might open. He did not say it would open if we perform perfectly. He said it will open at last. And for you, chosen one, the at last has arrived. The season of the knock is ending. The season of the threshold is shifting. What was locked by seasons is now being released by decree. Now, let me show you the pattern of what God is doing. Before I tell you why the door is opening now, I need to tell you why it was closed. Not to reopen old wounds, not to rehearse the pain, but because understanding the architecture of the delay is the only way to truly walk through the threshold without looking back. Here is what God was doing while the door was shut. He was not ignoring you. He was not testing your performance. He was not withholding blessing as punishment. He was building, and what he was building was not a cottage. Let me explain what I mean. When you first began knocking at that door, when the dream was young, when the prayer was fresh, when the vision was bright and urgent, you imagined what would be waiting on the other side. You had a mental picture, a certain kind of life, a certain kind of relationship, a certain kind of purpose. And God looked at that picture and said quietly, "Beloved, I am going to do something far greater than this, because what you have drawn is a cottage, and I am building a palace." C.S. Lewis, in one of the most staggering passages of his masterwork, Mere Christianity, described what God does when he takes up residence in a human soul. He wrote, "You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. He intends to come and live in it himself." This is not decorative language. This is architectural reality. If God placed a miracle in your hands today, the exact miracle you have been praying for, could the version of you that entered this season carry it without collapsing? Could the relationships in your life before the isolation sustain the weight of what God is releasing? Could the spiritual foundation that existed before the silence, before the stripping, before the hammering of the preparation season, hold the glory that is about to walk through that door? The honest answer is no. Not because you were broken, but because you were too small, not in a condemning way, but in the way that a cottage cannot contain the king. The weight was not empty. The silence was not absence. Every day, the door was shut. Every painful morning you woke up and found the same unanswered prayer, the same locked gate. God was working with the foundation of your life, cutting away what would crack under pressure, laying stone by stone a structure that would not just survive the miracle, but become a worthy home for it. Now, I want to show you a scene from the book of Acts that captures this exact moment. Acts chapter 12, verses 14 to 16. Peter has just been miraculously released from prison. An angel led him out, past the guards, through the iron gate. He is free. He walks to the house where believers are gathered, where they are literally actively praying for his deliverance. And he knocks at the outer gate. A servant girl named Rhoda comes to answer. She hears Peter's voice. She is so overwhelmed with joy that she forgets to open the gate. She runs back inside and says, "Peter is standing at the gate." And those praying for his deliverance say, "You are out of your mind. It must be his angel." Peter is still standing outside, knocking. The very miracle they had been praying for was knocking at their door, and they could not bring themselves to believe it. Chosen one. I need you to hear this. The miracle has already been released from the prison. It has already walked past the guards. It has already come through the iron gate. It is at your door. The question is not whether the miracle has arrived. The question is whether you will open the gate, or whether, like those in the house, you will keep insisting that miracles only happen to other people, that the knock is someone else's story, that you are not ready, that it is too soon, that it must be a mistake. It is not a mistake. Peter kept knocking, and eventually they opened the gate. And when they saw him, when they saw the living, breathing answer to their prayers, standing right in front of them, they were astonished. That same astonishment is available to you, but only if you open the gate. If you have been standing in the preparation season, if you have felt the hammering of God's construction in your life, if you have said under your breath, "I do not know how much more of this I can take," I want you to write something in the comments right now. Write, "Yo no estoy cansado." Even if you are exhausted, declare it as an act of refusal. Refuse to grow weary at the threshold of the miracle, because the palace is built, the key is in your hand, and the God who designed it all is watching to see if you will turn it. Now let me show you why the transition from cottage to palace was absolutely necessary. It was not about making you more impressive. It was not about testing your willpower. It was about capacity. A small container cannot hold what God is about to pour. If you tried to carry yesterday's blessing in today's vessel, it would overflow. It would be wasted. It would overwhelm the structure around you. So God expanded the vessel first. Think of it this way. A river that flows wide and shallow, moves fast and makes noise, but it cannot carry anything of weight. A ship cannot sail in ankle-deep water, but a river that is cut deep, a river that has been through the grinding patience of a glacier, moves slowly, moves powerfully, and it can carry ships. God was cutting you deep in this season. The silence was not the absence of the river. The silence was the deepening. You were being made a vessel that can carry the weight of what is about to arrive. And now you are ready. The depth is there. The foundation is laid. The palace is built. The miracle has been released from prison. It is at the gate. Now we need to talk about the key. The key, there is something God does not tell you. When He builds a palace and sets a miracle at the gate, He does not hand you a spectator seat. He does not say, "Watch me open this. Step back. I will handle it from here." He hands you the key and He issues a command. Open it. This is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in the theology of breakthrough. So many chosen ones have been waiting for God to shatter the gate from the outside, for a dramatic, unmistakable divine interruption that requires nothing from them but witnessing. And God is merciful. He does dramatic things. He does split the sea. He does raise the dead. He does open prison doors in the middle of the night. But the miracle in your life, the specific door that has been closed for this season, is waiting for your participation. Not your striving, not your forcing, not your performance or your effort or your hustle, your participation. There is a difference. Let me show you the difference between striving and faith. Striving is when you throw yourself against the door, when you kick the lock, when you push with everything you have, when you lie awake at night strategizing, when you send one more message, make one more call, engineer one more situation to try to force open what God has sealed in this season. Striving makes noise. Striving exhausts you. Striving leaves you bruised against the wood of the door. And striving ultimately cannot open what only the key can open. Faith is different. Faith does not batter the door. Faith walks up to the gate, places the key in the lock, and turns quietly, without performance, without an audience, without certainty that anything will happen, but with the Word of God as the only evidence needed, because when God says, "I've set before you an open door," that is the key in your hand. When God says, "Ask and it shall be given to you, knock and it shall be opened," that is the command to turn the key. You are not waiting for permission to knock. The permission was granted before you ever arrived at this door. The 6th chapter of Joshua, verse 5. Joshua chapter 6, verse 5. After a long siege, after years of circling, waiting, trusting, carrying the ark and the promise through the wilderness, God gave a strange instruction. He said, "March around the walls once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march 7 times. Then let the priests blow the trumpets. And when you hear the long blast, let all the people shout, and the walls will fall flat." I want you to understand how completely irrational this instruction was to the human mind. The walls of Jericho were not thin. They were massive, fortified, ancient, the kind of walls that military strategists spent months trying to breach. And God's strategy was, walk quietly for 6 days, then shout. And the Israelites obeyed. They did not argue the military logistics. They did not demand a more sensible battle plan. They picked up their feet, they carried the sacred things, and they walked day after day, around walls that did not move, past stones that did not crumble, in the face of silence from the city above, walking in faith that the walls would fall, at the sound of the trumpet, not at the sound of the battering ram, not at the sound of military genius, at the long blast of obedient trust. And on the 7th day, at the sound of the trumpet, at the shout of a people who decided to participate with their voices. Before they saw a single stone move, the walls fell flat. Chosen one, you have been circling. You have been carrying the sacred things of your faith around walls that have not moved. You have been walking obediently in a season that made no strategic sense. You have held your peace when every logical instinct told you to pick up the battering ram. The 7th day has arrived. The long blast of the trumpet is sounding over your life, and it is time to shout. If you are ready to step away from striving, if you are ready to place the key of faith in the lock and declare your participation in this open door, write it in the comments right now. Write, "Abro la puerta." I open the door, not because you see it open, not because the evidence of the natural world confirms it, but because the Word of God is a more reliable reality than anything your eyes report back to you. Abro la puerta. Say it. Let it be the sound of the 7th day. Now let me tell you what the key actually is, because this matters. You might be imagining a key as something you do not yet have, a special kind of prayer you have not learned, a level of faith you have not yet achieved, a spiritual accomplishment you are still working toward. That is not the key. The key is already in your hand. It was given to you the moment you first believed. The key is your voice. It is the prayers you have already prayed. It is the worship you have offered in the dark of your isolation. It is the quiet, stubborn, unreasonable decision to trust God in the middle of what made no sense. You did not lose the key in the waiting. You forged it. Every night you chose to trust instead of collapse. You were sharpening the key. Every morning you rose and praised a God you could not yet see moving. You were strengthening the key. Every act of quiet obedience, every sacrifice of your own timeline to His, every moment you chose faith over fear. That was the key being formed in the fire. And now it is ready, perfectly cut for the lock that has been waiting. There is one more thing you must understand about the key. God has unlocked the lock from the inside. The bolt has already been thrown back. From His side of the door, the miracle is already released. The answer is already prepared. The alignment is already set in motion. He has already done His part. All that remains is for you to do yours, to walk to the gate, to place the key in the lock, to turn it, to push the door. This is not passive waiting. This is active faith. This is the participation of a chosen one who has heard the word of the Lord and decides to trust it more than their own hesitation. Your memory of closed doors will try to stop you at the threshold. Your mind will remind you of the times you tried before and found the lock unmoved. Your emotions will say, "Don't get your hopes up again. Don't be foolish. Don't open yourself to disappointment one more time." And to all of that, to the memory and the fear and the cautious wisdom of self-protection, you are going to say, "I hear you, and I'm turning the key anyway, because the God who builds palaces and sets miracles at gates does not send His chosen ones to the wrong door. He sends them to the one He has already opened from the inside. And this is your door." Write in the comments, "Recibo mi llave." I receive my key, not the one you have to go earn, the one you forged in the fire of the waiting, the one you already hold. Recibo mi llave, because the gate is unlocked and the palace is ready, and the God who built it is standing on the other side, not to greet a striving, exhausted soul who finally forced it open, but to welcome a chosen one who trusted His word enough to walk up to the door and simply turn the key. Now let me show you what is waiting on the other side. Chosen one, I need you to lean in very close right now, because the tone of this message is about to change. Something is breaking open. Something that has been sealed is becoming unsealed. Something that was held in tension is being released. I want you to feel the shift in the atmosphere, because what I'm about to say is not a preparation. It is not an instruction. It is not another layer of teaching. It is a declaration. The door is open. The threshold you have feared approaching is no longer a barrier. It is an invitation. The closed gate of your season has been ordered open by the decree of heaven itself. And what is waiting on the other side is greater than anything you lost in the waiting. While you were in the silence, while you were circling the walls, while you were forging the key in the fire of the delay, God was not still. He was not waiting with you, staring at the same closed door. He was moving. On the other side of the door you could not open, He was assembling. He was drawing together every piece of the miracle that your season of preparation was designed to receive. People were being positioned, chosen ones, who carry the same assignment you carry, who have been through their own wilderness, who have been refined in their own silence, were being moved along invisible trajectories that will bring them into your path at exactly the right moment. Resources were being gathered, The provision you spent years believing for was not lost in the delay. It was being stored. It was accumulating interest in the economy of heaven, compounding quietly in the dark. For the moment the door swings open, doors within doors were being unlocked. The opportunity you tried to force open with your own effort and found sealed, that was not your door. Your door is the one that opens with recognition, the one that, when you step through it, something in you says, yes, this is it. This is what the wilderness was for. This is the destination of everything I endured. You did not miss your moment. You could not miss it. Because the God who designed the assignment also designed the preparation, and He does not let the prepared arrive before the palace is finished. He does not send you to the door before the door is ready for you. Your time, though it confused you, though it stretched beyond your tolerance, though it cost you more than you thought you could afford, was not random. It was precision, divine precision, the kind that can only come from someone who exists outside of time and sees the beginning and the end in the same glance. Revelation chapter 3, verse 8. Revelation chapter 3, verse 8. God says this, "Behold, I've set before you an open door, which no one can shut. I have set before you an open door." Not a door that might open, not a door that could open. If you pray enough, perform enough, prove yourself enough. A door that has already been set open by Him, by the one whose hand no force in creation can override, which no one can shut. Think about what you have been fighting against. The voices that said you were too late. The doors that slammed in your face. The relationships that should have opened doors and didn't. The opportunities that evaporated. The seasons of silence that felt like sealing. None of those forces, not a single one, has the authority to shut what God has opened for you. The enemy cannot shut it. Your past cannot shut it. Your failures cannot shut it. Your weariness cannot shut it. Your doubt cannot shut it. When God opens a door and says, "This one is yours," it stands open. It stands open in the face of every force that tried to tell you it was closed, because the one who set it open does not change His mind. Based on the tactics of your opposition, He does not renegotiate the miracle. Because the enemy pushed back, He does not withdraw the open door. Because the waiting lasted longer than expected, the door that is yours is yours. It has been set, and it will stand open until you walk through it. If you claim this, if you believe that God has set an open door before your life, that the walls of Jericho in your season are collapsing, that the miracle is not behind a locked gate, but an open one, write in the comments, "Entro a mi milagro." I enter my miracle. Not "I will enter when things make sense." Not "I will enter when I feel ready." I enter, present tense, a declaration that you are stepping through the threshold with the Word of God as your only ground. Entro a mi milagro. Let that be the sound of your seventh day. Now, I want to tell you something about the fear of the threshold, because many chosen ones arrive at an open door and hesitate, not because they do not believe God, but because they cannot stop looking at what they are leaving behind. The closed doors of the past leave a kind of trauma in the spirit. You tried once, the door did not open. You tried again, the lock held, and now that the door is open, your nervous system remembers every time. You step forward in hope and step back in disappointment, and it says, "Not again. I cannot sustain another collapse." Do not let yourself hope. Do not let yourself expect. Protect yourself. And this is exactly where C.S. Lewis reaches across the centuries, with the precision of a divine surgeon. In one of his most extraordinary observations, Lewis wrote, "There are far, far better things ahead. than any we leave behind. Far, far better. Not slightly better, not comparable. Far, far. The language is extravagant. It is the language of a man who understood that the human heart tends to count its losses and minimize its future. We know exactly what we lost. We catalogued it, we feel the weight of it, but we have no idea, no real idea what is ahead. And Lewis is saying, stop calculating your future by the weight of your past. Stop measuring the threshold by the height of the walls you circled, the things ahead, the people, the purpose, the peace, the relationships, the holy alignment that God has been assembling in the dark are so far beyond what you are leaving that if you could see them now, the closed doors of this season would not look like loss. They would look like mercy. You would understand why God shut every door that did not lead here. You would understand why He kept you in the silence until you were ready. You would understand why the cottage had to be demolished before the palace could be built, because the palace was always the plan, and the palace has always been better. Far, far better. Now let me describe what stepping through the threshold feels like, because you need to recognize it when it comes. It is rarely a thunderclap. It is rarely a sudden, unmistakable, undeniable fanfare. More often, it feels like recognition, a quiet settling of something deep in your spirit, a sense of rightness that does not require an audience to confirm. You will meet someone, and you will know in the first conversation that this connection was not accidental, not the dizzy excitement of novelty, the settled knowing of. This was arranged. This is a part of what God was building. You will encounter an opportunity, and it will not feel like something you chased. It will feel like something that was waiting for you to arrive, like a room that was furnished before you knew you needed it. You will feel peace settle on a decision that once would have paralyzed you with uncertainty, because the depth that was cut in the silence is now the anchor that holds you steady. In the motion of the new season, you will look back at the wilderness, at the circling, the silence, the key forging, and you will not be angry that it took so long. You will be undone by the precision of it, by the evidence that God knew exactly what He was doing on every single day, that felt like He had forgotten your address. He had not forgotten. He was furnishing the room on the other side of the door. And now the door is open, and the room is ready. And you are the one it was furnished for. Close your eyes for just a moment, not to perform, not to manufacture a feeling, just to receive. Ask God right now to open your eyes to what is already in motion, because it is in motion, it has been in motion, and it is closer than you have allowed yourself to believe. Then write in the comments, Abre mis ojos, open my eyes, because God answers that prayer with the speed of someone who has been waiting for you to ask. Now, I need to give you something before this moment closes. Not just an insight, not just a perspective, a truth about who you are. As you cross this threshold, you do not step through this door. The same person who first began knocking, that person, the one who arrived at the door, full of ambition and timeline and strategy, has been changed profoundly, irreversibly. You are not the cottage anymore. You are the palace. And the God who built you is about to move in. The book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10. Psalm 46, verse 10. God says, "Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God." You did that. When everything in you screamed to run, you were still. When the silence became suffocating, when the closed door became offensive to everything you believed, when your patience wore down to its last thread, you held. You were still. Not because it was easy, not because the theology was comforting, but because somewhere in your spirit, Beneath the confusion and the exhaustion, you knew that the God who called you to the threshold had not abandoned you at it. And that knowing, that stubborn, quiet, unreasonable knowing, was the highest act of faith available to a human being. The psalm continues, "I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." The God who led you through the wilderness is about to be exalted in your situation, publicly, visibly, in ways that will make every season of silence make sense to everyone who watched and wondered. Your stillness is about to become testimony. Your waiting is about to become witness. The very thing that made you look forgotten is about to make God look faithful, because He is faithful. He has always been faithful, and now the evidence of His faithfulness is walking through an open door. Let me tell you what you really are. You are not someone who survived a closed door. You are not someone who endured a long wait. You are someone who was inside a chrysalis, and the chrysalis is complete. Inside the chrysalis, the butterfly does not experience transformation as expansion. It experiences it as confinement, as pressure, as darkness, as the complete dissolution of what it was before it becomes what it will be. The caterpillar does not simply grow wings inside the chrysalis. It actually dissolves. It liquefies. It breaks down into something that looks, from the inside, like total destruction. And from that dissolution, from that complete undoing, the wings are formed. Chosen one, you were not in a prison. You were in a chrysalis. The darkness was not punishment. The pressure was not cruelty. The silence and the stripping and the long painful waiting was the forming of your wings. You did not stay in the closed door season because you were weak. You stayed because the metamorphosis required it, and the metamorphosis is complete. The wings are formed. They are ready. You do not emerge from this threshold the same. You emerge aligned, purified, more rooted where it counts, more unshakable where no one can see, carrying the depth of someone who has been to the bottom of the valley and found God's hand there, ready for what the palace was built to hold. Father, I speak over this one right now, over the chosen one who circled the walls, when walking away would have been easier, over the one who held the key in trembling hands and chose to turn it anyway. I speak release over them, release from the weight of every closed door that left a mark, release from the shame of the waiting season, release from the lie that they were forgotten, that they were too late, that the miracle had moved on without them. I speak the decree of Revelation 3:8 over their life. The door that God set open for them cannot be shut, not by the enemy, not by their past, not by the fear at the threshold. It stands open, it will remain open, and they walk through it today. I speak the commissioning of Joshua chapter 1 over them. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go, through the open door, into the new territory, across the threshold of everything the chrysalis was preparing. Chosen one, receive this, not with your mind, with your spirit. Let it settle into the deep places. Let it become the foundation of the next chapter, because the next chapter begins on the other side of the door, and the door is open. Before this message closes, before this moment passes, I need one thing from you, not for me, for you, for the chapter that begins the moment this ends, the declaration that becomes the first word spoken over your new season. Write it in the comments. Mi milagro ha llegado. My miracle has arrived. Not will arrive, not might arrive, has arrived. Because the door is open, because the palace is built, because the walls fell at the sound of the trumpet, because Peter is standing at the gate, because the door on which you have been knocking all your life is opening at last. Mi milagro ha llegado. Speak it, type it, let it be the blast of the trumpet. On the seventh day of your Jericho, let it be the first word of a chosen one who refuses to stand at an open door and call it closed. Chosen one, the door is open. Do not stand at the threshold. Walk through it.